started my impersonations years ago, back in 1976 when we were shaking down bars in Collinwood. I posed as a police officer. I've impersonated a Hell's Angel, and I have impersonated, a contractor that hires people to be killed. Never in a million years did I think it would reach this level, and it would snowball effect into where we're at right now.
47-year-old Mark Ducic is charged with capital murder. If convicted, the maximum penalty in Ohio is death by lethal injection.
I hope he gets the death penalty. I want to sit there and watch him die. I would get joy out of that. I'd even show up with popcorn. I mean, that's mean, sinful, evil thing to say or whatever, but I don't care. He killed my mom.
His mother is Barbara Davis, Ducic's common-law wife and fellow drug abuser. When she was found dead at a friend of Ducic's house with lethal amounts of numerous drugs in her system, the police believe that it was an accidental overdose. 16 months later, the friend who owned the house, Don Erkey, was also found dead. The coroner initially ruled this as an accidental overdose as well, but Cleveland prosecutor Dan Caceres now believes that Ducic carefully planned both deaths, that these were not two overdoses, but two murders.
The weapon, in this case, is a concoction of drugs, and that were used to kill two people.
Caceres believes that Ducic intentionally gave both of his victims fatal drug overdoses, that he murdered Barbara because she threatened to turn him into the police for drug dealing, and then killed Don because he was the only witness to the homicide. For this, he believes that Ducic deserves the maximum sentence.
Mark Ducic is a danger to the citizens of Ohio. You pick up a revised code, you go through every chapter in it, and you could pull out a crime that Ducic committed. And the fact that he can, this time when he committed crimes, he killed two people. I think with this man, with these circumstances, it justifies the death penalty.
Step on out, sir.
All right. How can you ask a jury to put a man to death for something that's not a homicide? These people themselves were addicts.
The truth is that Barb and Don passed away as a result of accidental overdoses.
John Luskin, Ducic's court-appointed counsel, is a former police captain turned defense lawyer.
Mark Ducic is not a murderer. And that's what my gut instinct tells me. 30 years of experience is telling me that's not the right guy. And the 13 odd death penalty cases that I have tried, I have no one on death row. And I don't want to start with Ducic.
4 months ago, Luskin brought this case to trial, but halfway through, his co-counsel fell seriously ill, and the judge declared a mistrial. Today, 2 weeks before the retrial, Luskin is bringing his new co-counsel, public defender Mark Spadaro, to the Cuyahoga County Jail to meet Ducic for the first time.
So how much money did we lose on the crap table? We lost a lot. Did we? Mark Spadaro is going to join the team here. How do you do, sir? All right, have a seat. Okay.
Mark Ducic grew up as an only child. As a teenager, he started using drugs, got into trouble with the law, and since then has been in and out of the penitentiary for charges ranging from felonious assault to drug dealing to forging checks.
They can say I did anything with my record. You put me into a jury room, and I'm guilty.
We have to fight for your life. They're trying to kill you, okay? Yeah. And we're here trying to stop that.
This is really crazy, man.
I understand it, but this whole case is really crazy, all right? This whole case is predicated on your mouth.
Yeah, do it. I know I can do it. I know I can do it. Last year and a half I did 2 of them, and you can't touch me. I know I can do it, Brad.
The state's case is built on 15 hours of audio recordings where Ducic appears to be confessing repeatedly to the crime.
What do you think? All these people around me, man, are ODing by accident?
No, I don't think they're ODing by accident, but that's why I'm asking. There's a way to make them OD.
Yeah, there is.
Today, Caceres is meeting with the man who made the recordings, Brad Weiss, a friend of Ducic's from prison, turned police informant.
The informant, told us that, Ducic has been telling him how he killed 2 people, and that he fooled the coroner, fooled the police, fooled everybody. So we decided we were going to send the informant in wearing a recording device, and we were going to hire Ducic to kill a person the same way that he had killed the other two people.
Now let me ask something. This is between you and girl. She does oxy and all that stuff. So what if she overdoses? That would be no problem.
On the recordings, Ducic explains that he can mix the prescription drug OxyContin with other drugs and create a murder weapon, which he calls a hot shot, and then make it look like an accidental overdose.
That's why the cops can't get me. So why can't they get? It's too easy to do, as long as they have a history. But what you do is, you got to plan ahead a little bit. Like a month ahead, give her a little bit of this, give her some perks, give her a couple oxys, and then bam, all of a sudden, she does a hot shot, and bam, she's through.
In Ducic's own words, he says that he killed these two people.
But Mark Ducic has told us many things have happened.
You have created the Mark Ducic myth.
Yeah.
You are a myth within a myth.
I did a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. That's why you're sitting over here now.
Well, I mean...
Luskin's defense will be that Ducic is not a murderer, but a compulsive liar and braggart.
He is a mafia hitman. He is a member of the Hells Angels. He is a porter from death row at Lucasville.
That's the 2nd Airborne.
He's tattooed with the Airborne Ranger insignia and things of that nature. I think he was dishonorably discharged or less than honorably discharged from the Army, is what the bottom line is. But he likes you to believe these things, and he'll tell you these things. But if you knock him down to it, the stark reality of it is that he is a somewhere late 40s, maybe early 50s, unmarried, lives at home with his mom.
Well, if I need your help. Yeah, something like that. You'll help. That's my expertise, man.
Ducic says all he's doing on those recordings is boasting, trying to ingratiate himself to Weiss, the son of a wealthy Cleveland businessman.
I was trying to impress Brad Weiss, the multimillionaire. I was trying to be the hardcore hitman, which at one time, as it says, he thought I was.
I can't wait to walk in that courtroom and look at Mark Ducic right in the eye and say, yeah, I have a drug problem, I had a drug problem, I'm doing good. But what's the difference between a drug addict and a murderer? The difference is me and you.
1 year ago, rather than face theft charges, Weiss cut a deal with Caceres and agreed to work with Detective Greg Whitney and Agent Lynn Mudra as an informant against Ducic. Since he's been working with prosecutors, he's been responsible for a series of high-profile convictions. If Ducic is convicted, he will be the 11th person Weiss has helped put behind bars.
Brad Weiss took advantage of Mark Ducic in a way that is really very pathetic. He sat there and took a guy that's down and out, an addict, everything else. He brought him beer, he brought him dope, he got him high, and when he did all these things, then he pumps him with this stuff.
Luskin will argue that Weiss manipulated Ducic, that he knew he was a compulsive liar, and that Weiss set him up so he could stay out of prison.
You got to use bad guys to get bad guys. To get Ducic, we got to do things that maybe we wouldn't normally do. But the greater good demands that we do that.
As recently as 5 months ago, Weiss failed a drug test, and the prosecution team is keeping a close eye on him to make sure that he does not relapse before trial. If he does not make it to court, their case could collapse.
I have to go back by the house, sir, and get my clothes.
Who's taking you?
I'm gonna go.
No, Greg's
Listen, I'm not going with Greg anywhere. Look at me. I'll come right back.
Somebody's going to take you.
I'm taking a taxi and I'm coming right back.
Please, Brad, listen.
Okay, you said please, and I will respect that.
Please shut up.
Yes, sir.
And listen to this.
I will shut up.
It's a good thing I'm between you two guys.
Oh, it's a good thing for him. Do you know why?
You better pack a lunch.
Because he'd have to give him mouth to mouth. If you didn't have a pink tie, you could threaten me.
All right, go.
Okay.
Mr. Ducic, child time.
Juice?
Yeah, please.
Because Caceres has accused him of threatening witnesses, Ducic has been in solitary confinement for over 4 months.
This isolation is really starting to get to him.
He's in there for the first time, fighting for his life. I'm afraid for him. I really am.
I'm in that little box sitting there. You guys are out there playing, and I'm in that little box. Excuse the word playing, working.
Caceres is getting to you, and I
No,
thought,
it is.
and I thought.
What, that I can handle more?
Yeah, I really.
Hey, I guarantee you put one person in one of those holes for 2 days, just 2 days, and see how they come out. And I've been doing this for months. These people can't even look at me out here. on the inmates.
Who the hell would want to look at you?
But that's not even funny now. I mean, as I said,
Mark, I need you to stay with me for another 24:48. He finally realizes that this is not a game anymore, that this is really his life. And it's so sad that he's probably waking up now. All right, let them take your thing, you gotta go.
people have this image that I'm some type of monster, but I'm not the person that everybody thinks.
All right, Mr. Ducic.
Thank you. I do have a tendency to exaggerate. I've got a big mouth. And now, all this bullshit, man, is all caught up with me. And, and it might kill me.
All right, we're here on case number 440378. The State of Ohio versus Mark Ducic. Is that you, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Ladies and gentlemen, as I indicated, you've been summoned as prospective jurors in a case here in Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court. If there is a conviction by the state proving the defendant's guilt, there is a possibility that the jury will be called upon to make a recommendation regarding sentencing. One of the possible sentences which would be recommended by the jury would be the death penalty. Now, because of that possibility, it is proper that the court and counsel ask you certain questions pertaining to your views regarding the death penalty.
The judge calls each one of the 48 prospective jurors into her chambers, in the room of the lawyers and Ducic.
Would you follow the law and sign a verdict if you thought it was appropriate, imposing the death penalty?
I don't know.
And I don't mean to be difficult with you, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but we need a definitive answer. Could you, in fact, follow the law? Yes or no?
I don't know. I just don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this.
All right, you may step outside. Are you religiously, morally, or otherwise against the imposition of the death penalty?
No.
Are you religiously, morally, or otherwise against the imposition of the death penalty?
No.
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 Man, every one of those people just bing, 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 bing. Yeah, I'm for the death penalty. I'm for the death penalty, for the death penalty. And that's the odd part about this whole process. You can only accept people that are for the death penalty. If you're adamant not for the death penalty, then you're excluded.
Are you religiously, morally, or otherwise against the imposition of the death penalty?
Yes.
You say that pretty firmly.
Yes, I do.
All right. Now, even though you have a conscientious, religious, or other objection to the death penalty, if you are selected as a juror in this case, will you nevertheless follow my instructions as judge and fairly consider the imposition of the sentence of death if appropriate in this case? And you must answer yes or no.
No.
I want to know, can you perform that physical act calling for the imposition of the death penalty?
I think so.
Yes.
It would be like me killing somebody, sir.
If it was appropriate for you to sign your name to a verdict form imposing the death penalty, you would be able to do that.
Correct. Yes, I would.
Thank you.
These people didn't show no emotion at all. I looked each one in the eye. I didn't, and I didn't sense like that they felt like embarrassed about saying, yeah, as I said, like, we can kill you, Mark.
Are you religiously, morally, or otherwise against the imposition of the death penalty?
No, I'm not.
Mr. Caceres.
Thank you.
Ms. Waterbay, in your questionnaire, you were asking number 68 about why you'd be qualified to serve as a jury, and you indicated, I'm forthcoming in all I do. Don't want to know the truth, then I'm not the person to ask.
Exactly.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you ask me if your shoes are nice. Don't ask me because if they're not, I'm going to tell you.
Gotcha.
I'm pretty opinionated, I guess is the word for it.
You're blunt and to the point.
I'm blunt and to the point. I'm as New Jersey as they get.
Okay.
What are you looking for?
We're looking for you to be honest.
That I am.
In 2 days of jury selection, only 6 of the potential jurors said they would be unable to sentence Mark Ducic to death.
I felt an aura today. It's like no matter what, that these people, are going to find me guilty of murder. It's like, maybe this is my time for it to be over with,
We have our jury of 12, if you would stand.
This is the jury of his peers. Among them, a mail carrier, a restaurant manager, a student, and a businessman.
I think we have a good jury. I think we have a jury who will listen to possibly giving him the death penalty if we get that far.
All right, tomorrow we're going to start, Mark. So, I'm not very enthusiastic with this particular jury, but it's best I think we have at this particular point in time. You said your prayers lately?
No.
Well, you know what? Now's the start the time. Get back down on your knees tonight. We need all the help we can get.
On behalf of the state of Ohio,
Thank you, Your Honor. Expertise. Expertise. This case is about the expertise of Mark Ducic, and he's an expert in 3 areas. 3 areas. Number 1, drugs. Number 2, talking. And number 3, killing people. Mark Ducic stands before you charged with aggravated murder regarding the deaths of Barbara Davis. He's charged with aggravated murder regarding the death of Donald Erkey. He's charged with numerous counts of drug trafficking, Oxycontin, crack cocaine, Loricet. He's charged with attempted aggravated murder and conspiracy to commit aggravated murder. He's charged with intimidation and retaliation.
Wow. That was a whole lot of information. When I first became involved in this case, I nicknamed Ducic Walter Mitty. Walter Mitty daydreamed about being someone he was not. The first time I meet Ducic, he shows me upon his chest the logo of the 82nd Airborne, big parachutist tattoo. He tried to convince me that he had 89 combat jumps. Check of the history books would indicate that the 82nd last jumped in Holland in 1944.
The evidence isn't going to be that he's some sort of Walter Mitty type character who fantasizes about being somebody he isn't. The evidence is going to be that in reality, he's a killer. You have direct evidence from Mark Ducic's own mouth talking about how he killed Barbara Davis and Donald Erkey. And I would expect you to render a verdict of guilty on all charges. Thank you.
It's not about winning, and it's not about losing. It's about searching for the truth. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Your Honor.
ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to lunch. Remember the admonitions. Don't discuss the case with anyone. Don't let anyone discuss it with you. Good lunch, everybody.
When the jury returns, the prosecution will begin its case.
It's like I'm walking on a cloud. I'm going through this, but it's like a dream. Like I'll wake up and I'll be back at home. But it's not.
Sir, would you approach the bench, please? Just walk right up to me.
At the start of their case, the prosecution calls one of the last people to see Barbara Davis alive, her brother, Joe Bells.
And this you shall do as you shall answer unto God.
The day before she died, Barbara arranged to meet Joe for a drink.
Describe Barb's demeanor when you got to the bar.
She was happy. She wanted to dance.
Unbeknownst to Barbara, Ducic had called Joe earlier in the day to set up a drug deal and planned to meet him in the bar.
Okay, what arrangement did you have with Mr. Ducic?
I was going to sell him 10 Oxycontins.
And did he mention any particular strength?
He said 80s. I said I can get 20s, and he said the stronger the better.
That night, Joe sold Ducic 10 80-milligram Oxycontins, the powerful prescription painkiller, which was the main ingredient in the drug cocktail that prosecutors say Ducic later used to kill Barbara Davis.
What happened after the transaction?
We decided to leave.
And you gave him the ride?
Yes.
What did you observe while you were in the car?
Well, she started calling him names first, like mother effer, and then she started hitting him a few times. And I looked in my rearview mirror, and he just had this look on his face, like he wanted to kill her right there.
Objection.
The objection is sustained. The jury will disregard the last comment.
The next morning, his sister Barbara was found dead. In her system, a fatal mix of alcohol, Valium, cocaine, and OxyContin. The OxyContin was 10 times the therapeutic level.
Your Honor, the state would call Ms. Marie Miller.
Marie is Ducic's ex-wife. She was also a friend of Barbara Davis's.
Would you raise your right hand, please?
Shortly before Barbara died, she overheard an argument which the prosecution hopes will give the jury Ducic's motive for the killing.
And this you shall do.
Marie and some of the other witnesses have asked the court to require us to obscure their identity.
Did you have an opportunity to witness or view a disagreement between the defendant and Barbara as to her going to the police?
Barb would say she was going to go to the police about him taking her Social Security check and also something about her pills. He was taking her prescription.
Do you recall the morning that you were advised that Barbara had died?
Yes.
When you called the Yerke residence, who answered the phone?
Mark did. I said, well, let me talk to Barb. And he goes, I don't think she's alive or she's not breathing or something like that. And he said she was foaming at the mouth. And I kept screaming, call 911.
Phone records show it was not until 43 minutes later that Ducic finally called for an ambulance.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Next, the prosecution turns to the killing of Donald Yerke and brings up one of the drugs that they think Ducic used as a murder weapon.
What type of cough medicine were you using or taking at that point?
It was Hydromet.
Hydromet is a prescription opiate-based cough syrup. A few days before Yerke died, Ducic asked Marie to bring her medicine to Don's house because Yerke, he said, was sick.
When you went over to Don's house that day, what took place with that bottle of Hydromet cough syrup?
When I went over there, Don wasn't sick.
A few hours later, she discovered that her medicine was missing and demanded that Ducic return it.
Well, did you get your bottle back?
Yes, and it was empty.
A day later, Donald Yerke was found dead. In his system, a fatal mix of codeine, Flexerol, and hydrocodone, the active ingredient in Marie's Hydromet cough syrup, which, like Barbara Davis's OxyContin level, was 10 times the therapeutic dose.
Well, right after that happened, I called Mark's mom's house, and he goes, Don died. I go, what do you mean Don died? When did he die? And he goes, a couple days ago. Then he goes, you killed him. He was trying to blame me, saying I killed him with the cough medicine.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a recess. All rise.
Her whole testimony's changed in her first trial. I'm telling you right now, she's changed it. I know you. If she changed, cut her throat. Okay? That's all.
You are not the legal wizard that you think you are. A lot of times, you come up with some very distracting things. And unfortunately, it kind of throws me off. And if it throws me off, then I lose my train of thought. I lose my train of thought, you lose your life. All right?
Did Mr. Ducic ever tell you stories about himself?
Oh, yes. Basically that he was in Vietnam. He just told me he had some shrapnels.
And they really weren't true, were they?
No.
Any other tales that he may have told you?
Just basically about the Vietnam. That was about it, really, because everything else he told me was pretty much true.
I mean, Barb had gone through a lot with some of the men in her life.
Was she going through a lot with the man who was current in her life at the time that she died?
Yes.
Sandy Sherwood was a mutual friend of Barbara Davis and Mark Ducic's.
I was at a house over on 69th up at St. Clair. Mark and somebody had gone to the store, and when they came back, he was mad at her for talking to his friend, and he picked up a screwdriver and stabbed Barb in the arm with a screwdriver. I was sitting right there when he did it.
Hours after Barbara's death, Ducic called Sandy and asked her to come over.
What did you and him talk about?
After we were there for a little bit, he wanted to get some crack.
You want anything else?
A prostitute.
And how do you know he was a joke?
He asked me to go get him one.
And what did you tell him after he said that?
To go straight to hell that your girlfriend just died.
It takes a lot for me to change a ruling. I need to be very certain.
Dr. Elizabeth Balraj is the Cuyahoga County coroner. Initially, her office ruled that both deaths were accidents.
And did there come a point in time when your ruling as to the manner of death changed?
Yes.
And what it would have caused your ruling to have changed?
I was given additional information by the police, so based on that additional information, I ruled this death homicide.
Overruled.
That ruling allowed the state to prosecute Mark Ducic for murder. Luskin, however, wants the jury to understand that it wasn't a change in the medical facts that caused her to change her mind, but rather excerpts of the police recordings where Ducic describes the crimes.
Were just small portions of those audio tapes or the entire tape played, Doctor?
It was played, I would say, portions of the tape, not the entire tape.
A lot better than last time you were here with the suit on.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor. The state would call Mr. Brad Weiss.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
It is clear that the state's case rests on the work of Brad Weiss, that jailhouse friend of Dusic's turned informant.
When you first started talking to agents Mudra and Whitney about Mark Ducic, what did you tell them?
I told them that there was a guy that was telling me how he had killed some people.
It was a plan developed as to what to do about what Mark Ducic was telling you.
The plan was to have him tell me more and get it on tape.
I'm this girl's trying to bring me down, man. I'm starting to think crazy. Well, if I need your help.
Yeah, oh yeah, something like that.
You'll help.
That's my expertise, man.
To catch Ducic, the police created a scheme where Weiss would hire Ducic to kill a fictitious woman, the way Ducic allegedly confessed to having killed Barbara Davis and Don Erkey.
Give her a little bit of this, give her some perks, give her a couple oxys, and then bam, all of a sudden, she does a hot shot, and bam, she's through. Brad, what do you think? All these people around me, man, are dead by accident.
Really think we can do it?
I know I can do it. Anytime I can do something that's already been done twice, in the last year and a half, I did 2 of them, and they can't touch me. I know I can do it, Brad.
Did there come a point in time where you paid Mr. Ducic $500 to have him do something for you?
Yes, sir.
And what did you pay him the money to do?
Have the girl killed.
Did the defendant ever call you and tell you he didn't want to kill her?
No, he did not.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
On behalf of the defense.
Luskin understands that those recordings are devastating evidence and knows that perhaps the only way to keep Ducic off death row is to discredit the man who made them.
I want the jury to walk away with the fact that Brad Weiss is a schmuck, is a liar, is a manipulator, and would have done anything whatsoever to get out of going back to the joint. And that includes setting up Mark Ducic.
Good afternoon, Mr. Weiss.
Good afternoon.
My name is John Luskin. Now, you've heard a lot about me, right?
I've heard
Objection.
a little about you, sir.
Abstain.
Objection.
Luskin begins his cross-examination by trying to show what Weiss had to gain by cooperating with authorities. Specifically, that while he was working with prosecutors, he was arrested for a DUI, found with a crack pipe, and that Caceres intervened to keep him out of jail.
And were you not caught on several occasions with crack pipes in your possession?
With crack pipes, yes.
Didn't you have crack inside of those crack pipes?
You're asking me, was there crack in there? No.
Did you smoke crack in the crack pipe?
I don't know if I smoked crack in that crack pipe. Yes, there was crack smoked out of that crack pipe.
Okay.
Probably. I'm sorry that I lost you.
The defense wants to make the focus of this case Brad Weiss, that he's a convicted criminal, he's a drug addict, and he can't be trusted and he can't be believed. The problem is there's nothing that will erase what the defendant says on these tapes.
But only a small portion of the 15 hours of tape have Ducic actually talking about the murders. There are also extended periods of silence, punctuated by unidentified noises. The defense hopes the jury will conclude that those noises are Weiss taking off the recording device in order to get high or to have conversations that he did not want his police handlers to overhear.
That's because he's in there. All finished.
The recording device was disguised as a pager.
Mr. Weiss?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us what has happened to the recording device at this particular point in time on June the 11th?
Nothing has happened to the recording device. It's still on me.
Obviously, he's lying. He has a convenient memory of when he wants to forget and when he doesn't forget. He went in there with the sole expressed intent to manipulate Ducic. And, you know, right, wrong, or indifferently, Ducic is a pathetic person.
Yeah, because I was a crackhead, and that's why the deal
You
party.
ain't no crackhead. I want to hear it. You're a good dude, man. You're solid as they come.
You know?
He basically says he's a crackhead and he's more or less of a failure, correct?
That's what he's saying.
And you are his so-called friend and confidant, and you're building him up and telling him, no, he's not. Would that be a fair statement?
Absolutely.
On friends or whatever, people even think that are friends, you know. People really ain't. Nobody gives a fuck about nobody.
No, I got a
You know, people use that word way too loosely because people ain't, you know.
Good morning, Mr. Weiss. How are you today?
Good, thank you. And yourself?
Hanging in there.
Luskin has been cross-examining Weiss for over 3 days.
Is the recorder on your person at this particular point in time?
Is it on myself?
Yes, sir.
It's like watching a movie.
Picking up the pager from where you had left
I
it.
thought I just said that the pager never left my side.
You know, constantly seeing the same scene over and over again.
Well, let's just play that last part for today.
It's like an evil torture chamber where someone has the remote control and you can't get it.
He was bad this afternoon. He really was.
Mr. Weiss, you are under oath.
He doesn't remember stuff.
Your testimony before this jury that you were not away from that pager.
It is my testimony that the pager never left my body.
Okay, you're sure of that?
I'm not sure of anything anymore.
All right, we're going to go home for the evening.
We're never going to get the truth from Weiss because he's incapable of telling the truth. But as he was a good witness yesterday and the day before, he faltered today. God knows what's going to happen tomorrow.
He's wearing down. I'm concerned about whether or not he's going to make it. He's got a Band-Aid on because he's got these hives on his face that are breaking out. Yeah. He's going to end up in a hospital, I'll tell you right now.
Really?
You're in the ER. They're going to put tubes down his nose into his stomach.
Brad Weiss is checked into the hospital with internal bleeding.
We have a problem here. And I think everybody should maybe think about it. What if Mr. Weiss cannot continue?
If the defense cannot finish their cross-examination of Weiss, in all likelihood, the judge will have to declare a mistrial.
And this you shall do as you shall answer to God.
I do.
In his absence, the state starts calling their remaining witnesses.
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Yeah, my name's Edward Farrell.
Farrell lived on the same cell block as Ducic. In return for a reduced sentence, he's agreed to testify about a conversation he says they had in jail.
Who did he tell you about the death of Barbara Davis?
Said that he OD'd her on a bunch of different types of drugs.
Did he tell you why he OD'd her?
Yeah, he said that he thought that she was either getting ready to go to the feds or to the police on him.
And did he tell you anything about Donald Urke's death?
Yes, sir, did. Said that it was done the exact same way. Said he was afraid that Don was going to go to the police about him because Don knew about him killing Barb. He said best thing he could do for him, because he was his friend, was let him die in his own, his favorite chair.
That's crazy. Did he discuss with you his any strategy or plan?
He said that the way he was going to try to play it to the jury was to convince them that he was totally lying about everything.
This you shall do as you shall
Kenny
answer to
Frost
God.
is a drug dealer and former friend of Ducic's. He has also cut a deal with the prosecutors to testify in return for a lower sentence on drug charges.
Did the defendant ever talk to you about a combination of drugs that he made?
You must be referring to the cough syrup mix with the Xanax and Percocets.
What did he tell you about that?
Oh, my God.
You can mix the cough, you can put the Percocets and Xanax up and put it in a cough syrup and knock a person out with it.
Did the defendant ever discuss with you the deaths of Donald Urke or Barbara Davis?
No, but he mentioned I should knock Don out and go in and steal his guns and credit cards.
Frost said no, and a short while later, Ducic contacted him again.
What did the defendant tell you?
He told me Don was dead. He needs somebody to go in and take the guns and credit cards.
Was the defendant ever mention anything to you about you testifying?
Yes.
What did he tell you?
Told me I better shut up before something happened to me.
And how hard would Mark and Barb party, if you know?
Hard.
What do you mean by hard?
What I mean by hard, rock cocaine, pills, beer, whiskey.
And the party never stopped with those two.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about how he liked to play parts and stuff like that.
Well, that part is true. I didn't listen to half of what Mark was talking about.
Why not?
Because I know he was putting on airs. He just wanted to be bigger than what he was.
And he would tell you all kinds of wild stories that you wouldn't even listen to.
Right.
Because why?
That's Mark Deuce.
Thank you, Mr. Frost. I have nothing further.
Kenny Frost came across, as you say, as the most credible witness.
And that's the problem. But the problem is solved, Mark, by Kenny Frost saying that he tells big, tall tales to make himself sound big. So it's just coincidence that you're making yourself big, talking about knocking him out before he's dead, and then calling him up and saying he's dead? That's just a coincidence?
It is.
Oh, Jesus.
There's a big difference, Mark, between knocking somebody out and killing them.
And the first phone call I got.
And if it's accidental, it's accidental.
Those guys were there 4 times.
So you're going to concede
four
it's
different
possible
people.
that he did try and knock him out and he died.
Don died at 1 o'clock. I'm telling you.
Don't tell me that, because you know what? Now you're telling me you were there.
No, because what the coroner said, 1:51 he was found.
Wait a minute. Don't go there.
Right.
Don't go there. Do not even think about it. Don't even think about it. If you're going there, then you're telling me that you were there.
How? How could I be there when I...
Then how the f do you know?
From the outside,
How
seeing
could
the
you?
photograph.
How
You're
could
just
you
talking
go
about
there?
hours wrong.
How could you go there and get the gun out if you didn't know he was dead before the cops got there?
At 4 o'clock when I got my call, when I come home, George was the first person to call me up and tell
let's
me
go there
Don
before
was
the
dead.
cops.
Is he able to testify? He is? Get him down here.
Brad Weiss has just been released from the hospital. He will retake the stand on Monday.
Mr. Luster, you're still under oath, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, continuing. Do you recall what you and Mr. Ducic did at that point in time on this tape?
I don't know what he did it or what I did at that time. No, I know I didn't smoke crack.
And that is your sworn testimony?
Yes, it is, sir.
No further questions.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank God. Thank God.
You do all right tonight.
If you go to bed, don't take it personal.
I'm taking it personal, Mark, because it's your life. Okay, they executed somebody yesterday, Mark. And they executed a guy by the name of Doom.
I knew him.
Well, he's gone. Well, I'm not having you go out like that, all right?
I'm serious, man. You did everything you can. And Walter, you are, man.
Okay. We're not done yet. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is a death penalty case. These charges are very, very serious. And we're relying upon evidence like Brad Weiss.
He told Brad Weiss how he killed 2 people, why he killed 2 people, the names of the people that he killed, when he killed these people.
Brad, while on crack cocaine, heard what he wanted to hear, told these guys what they wanted to hear. That Ducic was a dealer in guns, he was a Hell's Angel, and he killed 2 people.
Those aren't stories. Those aren't Walter Mitty myths. They're reality.
Whatever your verdict is, I know that it will be true and just and according to the law. We thank you for your time and your attention. Thank you, Your Honor.
Use your common sense. Go back in that jury room. Convict him. Convict him for killing those two people. Convict him for the drugs. Convict him right and convict him now. Thank you.
Those in favor of starting at the first charge?
Ducic's fate is now in the hands of the jury.
The first charge